Hello, my authors. I need to share with you that you may be losing a lot of your readers, and it has nothing to do with your plot or your characters or your dialogue. It comes down to one word from a man who's written over 200 novels and he sold over 350 million copies. I'm going to share this trick with you today. I'm picking this particular author because he not only wrote 200 novels, he also wrote in 8 different genres. So this is going to help all of the different writers in all of the different categories, whether you're in sci-fi, fantasy, romance, horror, or anything that you're in. He has written in these different genres, and this is his advice on the subject. His name is L. Ron Hubbard. He says here, the author writing a story estimates many, many efforts. If he is right, it is an interesting story and sells. If it is wrong, it is not an interesting story and doesn't sell. So now that word effort is everything. So we're going to go over what that means now. Effort is not just trying hard, it's the force and direction. So you use effort in 2 different ways. You're either forcing something to keep going, or the character is trying to force something to stop. So this is also the physical reality of motion itself. A sharp effort against a person produces pain. A prolonged or strenuous effort produces discomfort. This is the biggest key. When you're writing and the effort is off, your reader will feel that.
I don't get it.
There's going to be something that they don't quite understand why, but they're just not as involved in the book. There's something that's not quite right in the actual universe. So now the thing is, effort can be different depending on your whole world building as well. But for the most part, people experience reality the same. When your effort is wrong and you've incorrectly put the effort there, your readers will feel like something is off or fake, and they immediately turn off the beautiful video pictures that they're getting when they're reading your novel. Those will immediately boop, and they'll feel like they're suddenly out of the book and their attention is for some reason stuck on this point being not quite right. So they're no longer in the book anymore. This is why it's so important to get the effort correctly. Let me give you some examples because this will get incredibly practical for you. Here's an example of the wrong estimation of effort. Marcus planted his feet and pushed. The boulder, the size of his whole body, scraped across the ground and rolled off his friend with a heavy thud. Can you see what's wrong with this one? A reader understands as they're reading the book that it doesn't make sense because a boulder would have weighed at least 500 to 1,500 pounds, and there's no way someone can physically just shove a boulder out of the way and the person will suddenly be fine, right? There's a lot of effort involved in the person being able to move an entire boulder that is 1,500 pounds, especially on flat ground or something like this. By you writing without the correct effort, suddenly your reader is out of the magic spell of the book. They're completely out of it and they're like, something's not quite right. Now this is a correct estimation of effort for that same example. Marcus grabbed a fallen branch and jammed it under the edge of the boulder. He threw his full weight onto the other end. His arms shook, his legs burned, the rock groaned, then slowly, agonizing, it lifted downhill and rolled free. Now the reader is with your book. He is fully involved in that. He understands that that is the right effort. He can see that that is what would be needed in order to push that boulder. And so now he's completely involved in your book. He feels the weight, the strain. He can understand the difficulty it took for him to be able to move an entire boulder off of his friend. So now that whole scene becomes completely real for your reader. Here's another example when it comes to effort, and this one is riding a horse. So you have the wrong and correct effort. So here's the wrong estimation of effort. She swung onto the horse and they flew across the open land, smooth as the wind. It was effortless, like floating. Now this sounds very nice, sounds very poetic, but anyone who's ever ridden a horse knows that it is not smooth. It is full of motion. There's a lot going on. You literally feel your body bouncing up and down. It is not a smooth flow, right? So any reader who's ridden a horse before will immediately kind of come out of the book like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. So now here is the correct estimation of effort riding a horse. She urged the horse into a gallop and immediately felt the power of it. The ground hammering up through the saddle, her thighs burning as she gripped tight, her whole body lurching with every stride. It was brutal and alive, and she loved every second of it. Now that brings the reader completely into the story because that is exactly what it is like riding a horse. It is a lot of motion. There's a lot of stuff going on. It is hard to hold on to the horse when they are riding. Now that's the correct amount of effort. So the reader is sitting there and they're on the horse with the main character and they're experiencing it right there with the main character. So now I'm going to give you another example, and this is a sword fight. Incorrect estimation of effort. He swung the sword with ease, blocking blow after blow for 20 minutes without breaking a sweat. So now, okay, maybe the person's incredibly strong. This could be written for maybe an inhuman person, possibly, right? But for a human being, a sword, even a lighter one, weighs at least 2 to 4 pounds. People nowadays haven't really swung swords around, so usually this happens actually quite often where the writer, the author, doesn't know how difficult it actually is to swing a sword for even 20 minutes. It gets your muscles going, your muscles start getting tired, and you definitely will at least be breaking a sweat. So maybe even a strong character, even if they've done it all their life, 20 minutes is going to be bringing a lot of sweat and drenched sweat onto them. So it doesn't quite make sense that he wouldn't be breaking a sweat. He's going to be sweating his butt off, let's be honest. Okay, good. So now I'm going to give you an example of the correct estimation of effort. By the 10th exchange, his sword arm was screaming. He switched his grip, bought himself a breath, and felt the sweat stinging his eyes. The other man was tiring too. He could see it in the dropped shoulder, the slower recovery, just a little longer. See, now that effort is correct, and the reader is there counting down with him all of the amount of times that he's having to swing his sword. It's making both characters very exhausted, and there's a lot to it, so it's showing all of that in the story. Okay, I'm just going to give you one more example so that you guys can have this really down pat, and then we'll move on. Now, here's another wrong estimation. This is if someone were to be carrying another person to safety. He scooped her up and ran through the burning building without slowing down. So obviously, if someone has superhuman strength and he ran through the building, he's filled with a lot of adrenaline. At least communicate that. This isn't a terrible one, but it doesn't quite put the reader into that experience because it seems just effortless. Normally, that amount of weight, it's going to be heavy for him to carry someone all the way through a building. The average person weighs at least between 120 and 180 pounds, but there's going to be a lot happening there than just running through the burning building, right? If there's a lot of effort happening, the reader gets more involved. So now here's the correct estimation of effort for that exact scene. He got her arm over his shoulder and half carried, half dragged her down the hallway. The smoke was low now. He crouched, coughing, each step heavier than the last. His back screamed, 10 more feet, just 10 more feet. See, now the reader is there in the environment, completely experiencing all of those efforts that it actually would take to pull someone out of a burning building. So here's the most important part. How do you get the effort correctly? And the way that you get effort correct is by doing a lot of research. So the funny thing is, writers have been able to easily write off very fun excursions, adventures, and things like this, like going horseback riding, archery, going to an opera, because when they're writing about something, they actually need to do research. They need to experience it. The best writers will go in and they'll experience everything about whatever it is that they're writing about. For example, let's say you're writing about a musician, but they've never been in that world, but they have to write as though they are a musician. I have actually heard of musicians going down to meet with professional musicians. And so the author goes down and they sit there and they talk with the musician and ask them, what do people joke about? What are the common jokes? How do people react towards each other? They kind of get all of the lifestyle there is with being a musician. They will gather all the data so that they can really understand all of those things. In fact, they'll even go a step further and they'll maybe try to pick up their own instruments, try to read music, things like this that'll help them really understand how to write about that entire concept. I want you to take something away from this. I want you to go to whatever chapter you're working on that has a fight scene, a ride. You're writing about a knight. Maybe you're writing about someone who's in archery, someone who knows how to hunt. Maybe you're writing about being in the forest. I want you to go and do research. Okay, let's look at the author from The Hunger Games. When she was writing about that whole area, there was a lot that she had to learn. I'm sure she had to either have been in the forest many, many times, or you need to talk to people who have hunted before, they've had to track before, maybe making traps. She had to learn a lot about all of these different areas in order to even write about this. So she had to learn how are traps made so that she could properly describe not only how it works, but how would the animal be caught. She had to learn about archery and what is the effort of pulling the string back. How much does the person have to pull it back? Do they pull it back here? Do they have to pull it back all the way to here, which is usually the case, right? So the author has to do a lot of research. And let's be honest, nowadays we're very lucky and we can just do some YouTube college and we can understand quite a lot about the world that we're trying to write about, but it's even better if you can experience it. Now take all of these different areas in your book that have these efforts, whether it's a specific industry or the character is involved in a type of nature, or they're doing a certain activity like fighting or archery, horseback riding. Go and do your research, then go back to your book and reread it and see the difference and see what you can add to your book now that you've experienced it and you have all of the research behind it. See how you can rewrite it. And I'm guaranteeing it will definitely be a much better read. Okay, my authors, so I have left a free resource for you in the description box. This is based on my video, if you haven't watched it already, on conflict. And with these two, you should be able to fully fix any problems that you've been having in your book. If you find this video useful, please subscribe. I create lots of content like this every week for writers that really want books that sell. I'll also be adding a lot of podcasts with successful writers and what they've done so that you know how to sell your book as soon as you've finished. So let's get this book done and let's get it selling. I'll see you next time.